Welcome to the new episode of r/Askreddit. Who are some exposed frauds that still have a following despite being debunked? That dude that went to prison for fraud for Fyre Festival. He is out now and wants to try again. Dude is nuts. That Netflix show about Fyre Festival showing him in a luxury hotel room after he got charged with a crime trying to then sell fake VIP access passes and having his buddy video the whole thing. Grifter's gonna grift. His laziness was already well documented with that credit card or access card BS before the fire. Uri Geller. He still to this day claims he has mystical powers and won't admit he's just doing magic tricks despite being exposed by James Randi. The crazy part to me is that he is actually quite talented as a magician. He could make a good living just doing magic tricks and billing himself as such. He didn't even have to lie to be successful. Being a cult leader is way more fun, though. The Liver King guy, not sure if he still claims to be natty though. He admitted he was using, went clean for a bit, and unless there's been developments in the last few months, he's back on steroids and claiming he's not. Dude's got a physique that is pretty much impossible to achieve natural. Like it's still hard work, even if you're not natty. But don't give other kids the idea it's achievable. People have to admit they were duped. They follow because they can't accept they fell for something. Pride is a mother. Some people would rather jump off of the Empire State Building or lose their freedom than admit they're wrong. I knew a woman with multiple prior theft charges who got caught stealing at Walmart. When she went to court, the judge told her that she's denied any wrongdoing with prior charges and he'd let her walk out if she simply admitted it. Her attorney whispered to her take the deal, which she said no. There was video surveillance of her shoplifting. Her attorney then told the judge, "Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence." The judge immediately gave her 90 days. Edit. Typo. I just had a fight with my mom earlier today. I swear, it seemed like she'd rather have run out of the room on fire than admit she was wrong. I could see the gears turning. Warren Jeffs. Dude is literally in prison and still has a significant amount of devout followers. Keith Rainier, who started NXIVM too. There's still a bunch of women that hang out outside of the prison. He's in singing his praises every day. It's weird, man. Weird. I haven't heard of this. Gonna dig into it now. Thanks. Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. Oprah. Shame on her. Oprah has pushed so many terrible people, and I feel like it really should be discussed more. My mom's been in a cult for years because of her pushing Gwen Shamblin and the way down diet on her show. L. Ron Hubbard. Oh, you are so sued. I'm not gonna sue you, but I will spend the next 8 years outside your house with cameras, and every time you go to your car or to get the mail or open a window, I'm gonna ask why you insist on being a suppressive person. I'm not totally unreasonable after all. Logan Paul. Yay, this really annoys me. The dude has been called out for multiple crypto scams, and yet I still see his energy drink all over grocery and gas stations. I really hope he goes down for real. It's crazy that he even still has a following after everything he said and done. People were actually cheering and rooting for him in his recent scammer versus scammer joke cover boxing match. Flat earthers. I'm still convinced 90% of them are just trolling and don't actually believe it. The scary thing is that there are some people who fervently believe it no matter what. I had an intern tell me that people his age, college age, are not trolling when they say that birds aren't real and that Reagan planted drones that look like birds. I was like, homie, that started when I was your age as a 100% completely made up fact to confuse people on the internet. He said he guesses that his peers took it too far. I feel like there is overlap with the birds aren't real believers and the flat earth believers. Gregor MacGregor tricked a whole bunch of people into moving to a fake country in Central America. Not just one bunch of people. That mother sent 3 entire ships of settlers over before the scheme got traced back to him. And even then, the first boatload of victims didn't want to testify against him because they couldn't believe he'd scammed them, if I remember correctly. Jodestein. Pretty much all of the megachurch leaders. I'd say 100% of them. It is anti-Christian. Any excess should be given back to the communities they are in. That's why they don't get taxed. But now it's just a grift. They don't give a about anything other than the size of their bank accounts. MLMs. Surprised this isn't higher. The vast majority of people who sign up for them make very little and a significant number lose money. And yet, they're everywhere. It's even worse than that somehow 99% of MLM sellers lose money. It's only those at the very top that actually make anything at all. It's such a scam and a fraud. Peter Popoff. The divine voices he heard were actually his wife using a radio. He's still selling his miracle water. I was a big fan of the late James Randi. I remember when he exposed Peter Popoff and everyone hoped Popoff would be permanently cancelled. It's a shame people are so dumb that many of his believers went straight back to him, and, I hear, he has steadily increased his following every year since Randy exposed him. Grifters gonna grift. Andrew Wakefield, who was trying to get his own vaccine approved, so tried to make it look like another vaccine was a problem, did research without getting proper consent, falsified results, and so on. He's become the darling of the vaccines cause autism crowd, even though his behavior was so egregious that he lost his medical license. Worse and even more baffling is that people use the revoking of his medical license as proof that he was right. Part of the cover-up big pharma or some yeah, hard to tell if you are dealing with mental illness or gullibility. Maybe both. I'm reminded of something I first read in the graphic novel Batman, The Killing Joke. If I recall correctly, two patients of a mental hospital escape. They get to the roof, and there's a gap to the next building. They can't jump it. One patient says, "No problem, I have a flashlight. I'll shine it across the gap, and you can walk across on the beam of light." The other patient says, "Are you crazy? I know you. As soon as I get halfway across, you'll turn it off." With some of this stuff, it really feels like the deranged are leading the deluded, with the only in it for the money crowd added for good measure. Mental illness doesn't have any specific content. It with how you process your situation, but the material it works on is from your situation. Schizophrenia might make you hear voices, but it's your culture that tells you whether to hear fairies, demons, Jesus, aliens, or the CIA. A person with mania, whose social role is 19th century housewife, will act out that mania in different ways than one whose social role is 21st century project manager. Hell, plain ordinary major depression is different when a rich person has it than when a poor person does, because the rich person can just eat when they feel up to it, while the poor person has lost their part-time job for not showing up, and does not have the option of stuffing their face with McDonald's. Which is to say, it's not mental illness that causes anti-vax. It's cultural that happens to show up in mental illness symptoms, because it's present in the culture generally. Pretty much all MLMs. The business model has been proven not to work for 99% of people, but man, those companies are great at gaslighting or brainwashing their consultants. There's also zero qualifications other than putting in some money, so it's attractive to people who'd have a hard time getting a traditional job for whatever reason. All of their techniques and practices are the same as what cults used to indoctrinate. Disgusting grifters. And George Santos is still in Congress. For what it's worth, he only has a 7% favorability rating in his district, so he's pretty much guaranteed to be voted out next year. That's kind of an impressive number. It's hard to get 93% of people to dislike you. There are people who swear by Sylvia Browne to this day, despite her being outed as a fraud and making outright incorrect predictions that cause people to die of grief. Becomes frustrating when having a discussion with people about the possibility of the supernatural being just aspects of the natural that we do not understand, and they start talking her up as though that kind of quackery is what I mean at all. I'm getting the letter M. Does anyone here have an uncle or grandparent with that letter in their name? I also see water. They were around water. You ma'am, yes. Does that sound like any of your dead relatives? Yes. She told me to tell you she loves you very much. Boom. I'm a psychic. Fake selling of Eiffel Tower. Twice. He got scrap metal dealer to bribe him for the rights to the wrought iron after the dismantling. Sort of didn't sell it. Sort of did. And then he went to America and sold $100 bill making machines. Any fitness influencer claiming you can target specific areas of body fat to burn by doing a particular exercise. Oof, is that actually not possible? I really thought it was. Devastated to learn this, but thank you for sharing the truth, I guess. Fat can most certainly be targeted with a liposuction needle. That that claimed vaccines cause autism. He even got his medical license revoked. And yet people still believe him. I think that his doings were among the first steps into Matt's internet conspiracy hell. Given the fallout for his lies, to say nothing of his ongoing promotion of said lies, I think there should have been more drastic action than just having his license revoked. Somehow my parents still believe in me. See sunken cost fallacy. How do I know? My parents believe in me too. I'm like that with my dog. More than once I've thought about rehoming him. He gets out. He's disobedient. My other dog is good, so it's not the training, but I've spent thousands on him, with fencing, vet bills, so now he's under a much more stringent control. I don't really want to get rid of him anyway, because mostly he's good, but boy, there are times. Televangelist Sistine and Copeland. The crazy thing is how unbiblical prosperity gospel is. In fact, Jesus called on his disciples to do the opposite. If you want to be perfect, go, sell your possessions, and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. Then come, follow me. When the young man heard this, he went away sad, because he had great wealth. Then Jesus said to his disciples, truly I tell you, it is hard for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of heaven. Again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. Matthew 19:21-24. Hillary or Hilaria Baldwin. It is so funny that this adult made the conscious choice to pretend to be of a different nationality and chose that name. It's very hilarious to me. It's mind-boggling. Gwyneth Paltrow. Probably the most popular of the frauds. It's an open joke at this point. Gwyneth and her company encourage stupid outrageous claims, because that's all that drives traffic and sales for them. She was even parodied on Modern Family for multiple seasons, as Hal's incompetent employer. Nope instead of Goop. Andrew Tate says hi, or at least the mastermind behind his school thing. Why did I have to scroll down so long before seeing his name? Guess a lot of people are still falling for the fraud. I think the big reason is because while Tate isn't obscure, he doesn't really have the reach of something like televangelism or MLMs. Quite honestly, I think most people will forget who he is in the next 5 years. Shaun King. I'll die on this Elijah Flying F. Talcum X. I loved all the nicknames Twitter came up for him. Talcum X. Martin Luther Cream. Whitey Boyce. Snow J. Simpson. LeBron James. Healing rocks or crystals, or whatever they are called. This crystal when exposed to moonlight, can balance your mood and blah blah blah. Such as someone into geology, I hate this so much, and feel like a lot of this is thanks to Gwyneth Paltrow's company. Occasionally on the geology subreddits, we'll get people claiming their quartz is blocking their Wi-Fi's radiation, or asking what the meaning is of a rock they found. Also searching for any mineral on Google will often result in websites about healing, rather than actual scientific info. It's all pseudoscientific. Oh, and don't get me started on how they've raised the prices on minerals online, and popularized fake pieces like aura-coated quartz, baked amethyst, often mislabeled as citrine, and horribly dyed agates. Just so gross. Edit, because people keep saying it. I know Paltrow didn't start crystal healing. I meant that Goop has made it even more popular these days. TBF, I feel like this has been around long prior to Paltrow. She just capitalized on it and possibly believes it herself. I love rocks and minerals because they are cool and beautiful. In the end, it's just the same crowd or mindset as people who believe in zodiac signs define personality, MSG allergies and sensitivity. Funny that those only seem to trigger when the person knows or suspects the dish has MSG. I had a roommate that was the same way. Never ate Chinese food because it's packed full of MSG. That's the only reason it tastes so good. My other roommate loved cooking for the house. He revealed to me once that he puts MSG in tons of different things because it just makes everything pop. What I know, anti-manuscript G roommate never had an issue with those meals. Chiropractors. The one time I went to a chiropractor, I lucked out big time. My neighbor was a massage therapist at his office. When my back fracture started acting up really bad, and I was on a wait list for physical therapy, she convinced me to go. He took one look at my x-rays and said, "Nope, I'm not touching your back. Do not let any other chiropractor touch your back either. If you do, you could end up paralyzed." He told me to do PT, get regular massages, and take Epsom salt baths. Thank Christ I found one with a moral conscience. Trump, Andrew Tate. Thank you. I'm so flummoxed that I had to scroll down this far for Trump. The dude has literally been proven to be a fraud. He's literally in the process, in determining his punishment for his actually determined to be fraudulent actions. Trump is of a scale and magnitude far above Tate, but they are both cut from the same cloth. I cannot believe how far down I had to scroll to get to Trump. That bud sniffer should be A1 front and center. It's probably already said here, but all existing MLMs, LuLaRoe being the worst offender. How many lawsuits and documentaries is it gonna take before these snake oil wine bags finally off? There's a show called Sister Wives, and one of the wives was an early promoter of LuLaRoe. She uses the show to promote her business and it's gross. The show is gross, the family is gross, TLC is gross for giving them a platform, and the overpriced clothes she sells are gross. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Scrolled down way too far to find this. To con artists, and one of them is a pedophile or abuser, and what do they get? A beloved never-ending horror franchise. Which one was a pedo? Ed groomed a teen girl and moved her in with the couple and Lorraine was totally okay with it. Shaun King. Lately, he's been using shock journalism to grow his following during the Israel-Palestine war. Wait, what? Can you please educate me about Shaun King? I had no idea and have just started googling, and there's a lot. That's so disappointing. Jeffrey Shaun King is a guy who has 2 white parents on his birth certificate, but claims his mom cheated on his dad with a light-skinned black man. Because of this, he is adamant that he is 100% black. There's honestly so much to cover, but the podcast fraudsters did a great job of how he co-opted leftist movements to separated well-meaning people from their money. The biggest thing to note is his harshest criticisms have come from the left, even though he promotes progressive movements. Disgusting. I will absolutely be listening to that podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to reply. Scam Goddess did 2 episodes on him too, and they were lots of fun, aside from the really grim reality of all the heinous crap he's gotten away with. Oh, cool. Thanks a bunch. The entirety of Fox News. They literally won a lawsuit by claiming that no reasonable person would take them seriously. Don't stop there, cause that lawsuit was, what feels like, ages and ages ago. Keep going to newer lawsuits. Like the one where they paid $787 million in a settlement for lying. Or the one that hasn't completed yet but is looking to be way more than that for lying. The good old Coke defense. No one would be stupid enough to think that vitamin water was healthy. The vaccines cause autism guy. He ended up debunking himself, yet there are still people who refuse to vaccinate their kids because of that study. His name is Andrew Wakefield. He is no longer allowed to practice medicine in the UK, where he once had a license. Ironically, Frank Abagnale, the con man and forger they based Catch Me If You Can on. After the movie, he became famous in the security field and maneuvered that success into various contracts and partnerships and consulting gigs which made him quite wealthy. He was a consultant and partner in the Real ID concept and was some mover shaker of some type over at Clear, the guys at the airport. Even famously gave a TED talk. Turns out he heavily and intensely exaggerated his exploits as a fraudster and even oversold his work with the FBI. They consulted him a couple of times, but he was never on a task force. He conned and defrauded about being such a big con and fraud. Nothing really came back on him though. Oh, the deep irony. Donut Earth. This is the theory that 2.35 miles below the Earth's crust is a 1-mile layer of self-regenerating, nutrient-enriched donut dough that has the potential to eliminate world hunger. Is it where the flying spaghetti monster sleeps at night? This is a more recent one. Romana Didulo, the self-proclaimed Queen of Canada. She called for the public execution of healthcare workers, police, and politicians over COVID vaccine mandated. She even sat in her RV while 30 of her followers tried to storm a police station in Peterborough to make citizens' arrests of officers over the mandates. She's so off the rails that the Peterborough mayor told her to f*** off. This lady is riding the crazy train to Carlsville. She's been traveling around in a motorhome for the past few years, but her and her group of QAnon followers recently turned an old school in Saskatchewan into a cult compound. The school was donated to her by a follower. Trump. How does this man interrupt the voting process with an insurrection and impeach twice with people still trying to make him president? I make it into work 10 minutes late twice with a threat of being written up and being fired on my third strike. Where are my followers raising hell for me to perform a job? How is this not at the top? Right? He's like the wish.com version of P.T. Barnum. Trickle down economics. I've always liked horse and sparrow economics. If you feed the horse enough, the sparrow will be able to peck the seeds out of the horse's. Trickles down, money trickles up. Best one here. Does Andrew Tate count? I mean, anyone with half a brain knew he was a creep, but I'm still seeing people defend and support him, even after he was pitted as being a predator. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised when incels don't see anything wrong with abusing women in the first place. He spun it as though he was spitting such hot truths that the establishment couldn't handle it, so they railroaded him. It's 101 that all these con jobs say Trump does the exact same thing. Donald Trump or MAGA, the guy has like 50 felony charges and civil cases for fraud and rape and still has followers? It's cuckoo bananas. I try not to be Trump this Trump that, but this is what immediately came to mind. He's not good at business. He's not good at being president. He's oblivious to rules he doesn't want to observe. They think he's Christian and like, when have you seen him going to church even to fake it? Everything he does is as obvious as his fake tan. That makes him look like Magda from Something About Mary. Hee. Magda. These people play off that they are these shrewd people that show up on the car lot and get exactly what they want for less than it's worth, when really they are the type to show up on the lot and leave with a Hummer they don't need and can't afford. The guy behind the Super Size Me movie documentary blamed McDonald's for liver damage. Turns out he'd been an alcoholic and had been drinking heavily before, and during the whole time he was filming it, which means the doctor saying his liver looked like an alcoholic's was actually correct. No public retraction, though. No one seems to have noticed when this news broke, and he's still a trusted luminary as far as the general public is concerned. Yeah, the guy was supposedly throwing back a bottle of vodka a day during the filming, which is probably why people have struggled to replicate his results. They are missing the 1500 plus additional calories and liver damage from the booze. Russell Brand, accused of rape and having a thing for 16-year-old girls, become a MAGA right-wing grifter and world-class conspiracy theorist. New legal case of sexual abuse on film set says he was drunk. He claims to have been sober for years. Didn't Brand used to be fairly left-wing? I seem to remember him speaking positively about socialism years ago. Yeah, he did. Power to the people and all that. There are a lot of us who respected him. It makes this whole swing to the right even more obvious. Thank you.